Origins of the Mughal Empire. The origins of the Mughal Empire are deeply rooted in Central Asia, where the dynasty's founder, Babur, was born. Babur was a descendant of two of the greatest conquerors in history, Timur, Tamerlane, on his father's side and Genghis Khan on his mother's side. His ancestors ruled vast territories in Central Asia, including parts of modern-day Iran, Uzbekistan, and Afghanistan. Babur's early years were marked by hardship and displacement, as he was pushed out of his ancestral kingdom of Fergana, in present-day Uzbekistan, by rivals, forcing him to wander across different parts of Central Asia. Despite these challenges, Babur's sense of destiny and ambition led him to focus on conquering new lands. His most significant triumph came in 1526, when he decisively defeated Ibrahim Lodi, the Sultan of Delhi, at the Battle of Panipat. This battle is one of the most pivotal in Indian history, marking the beginning of the Mughal Empire in India. The victory gave Babur control over Delhi and Agra, laying the foundation for what would become one of the largest and most enduring empires in Indian history. Babur's success in India was not just due to his military prowess, but also his deep understanding of the political landscape. He realized that to hold on to power in the Indian subcontinent, he would need to foster alliances and respect local traditions. Babur's reign, though brief, opened the door to Mughal dominance in India, and his establishment of the Mughal Empire set in motion centuries of rule. It also marked the beginning of a cultural fusion between Persian and Indian traditions, which would grow throughout the empire's reign. Babur, r. 1526 to 1530. Babur's reign, lasting only 4 years from 1526 to 1530, was the inception of the Mughal Empire in India, and although it was relatively short, it was historically significant. Babur's success at the Battle of Panipat in 1526 was not an easy victory. He faced numerous challenges from the Delhi Sultanate, which had been weakened by internal strife. The battle marked the end of the Lodi dynasty's rule over Delhi, and the establishment of the Mughals as the dominant force in northern India. Babur's army was smaller than that of Ibrahim Lodi, but he used tactical brilliance and the element of surprise to secure victory. The victory at Panipat proved crucial in Babur's efforts to establish Mughal rule, and it demonstrated his skills as a military leader and strategist. Following his conquest, Babur faced resistance from local rulers, many of whom resisted the new Mughal authority. Despite these challenges, Babur effectively consolidated his rule over Delhi, Agra, and other parts of northern India. One of his most notable achievements was his ability to foster relationships with regional rulers, many of whom had been antagonistic toward the Sultanate. Babur recognized the importance of diplomacy in maintaining control over such a diverse and fragmented region. Babur's reign also marked the introduction of Persian culture and arts into India, setting the stage for the flourishing of Persian language, architecture, and art under his successors. The Mughal Empire, under Babur's leadership, began a process of cultural assimilation that blended Persian influences with the rich traditions of the Indian subcontinent. Babur himself was an accomplished poet, and he wrote the Baburnama, a memoir that provides valuable insight into his thoughts, experiences, and the early days of Mughal rule. These writings are an important historical document that reflects Babur's personality and his vision for the empire he was building. Though Babur died in 1530 and his son Humayun succeeded him, his legacy was profound. He had established the foundation for a dynasty that would rule over the Indian subcontinent for nearly 3 centuries, and he left an empire that would grow into one of the most influential in history. His short reign, however, was marked by the recognition that power in India could not be maintained through force alone, but required a balance of military prowess, political savvy, and cultural integration. Humayun, r. 1530, 1540, 1555, 1556. Humayun, the eldest son of Babur, ascended to the throne of the Mughal Empire after his father's death in 1530. His early reign was fraught with difficulties as he struggled to consolidate power in the face of internal challenges and external threats. Humayun inherited an empire that was still in its infancy and faced significant opposition from the powerful Afghan chieftain Sher Shah Suri. Despite his efforts to strengthen the Mughal hold over northern India, Humayun's reign was marked by a series of military defeats and setbacks. One of the most significant challenges came in 1540 when Sher Shah Suri, a capable military leader, decisively defeated Humayun at the Battle of Kanauj. As a result, Humayun was forced into exile, and Sher Shah Suri established the Suri Empire in northern India. During his years of exile, Humayun sought refuge in Persia, where he was supported by the Persian Shah, Tahmasp. His time in Persia was marked by personal and political challenges, but it also gave him the opportunity to strengthen his ties with the Persian Empire and refine his military strategies. Humayun's exile, however, did not break his resolve to reclaim the Mughal throne. In 1555, after years of planning and gathering support, Humayun returned to India. He regained control of Delhi by defeating the forces of Sher Shah's son, Islam Shah Suri, who had inherited the Suri Empire. Humayun's return to the throne marked the restoration of the Mughal Empire, albeit briefly. His second reign, which lasted only a year, was marred by a tragic accident when he fell down the stairs of his library in 1556, leading to his death. Humayun's reign is often seen as a period of recovery and restoration for the Mughal Empire, though it was short-lived. His accomplishments were overshadowed by the turbulent nature of his rule. Nonetheless, Humayun laid the groundwork for his son Akbar to expand and strengthen the Mughal Empire. His struggles also highlighted the importance of maintaining a balance between military prowess, political alliances, and the support of regional powers in the Indian subcontinent. Despite the challenges and setbacks of his reign, Humayun's legacy was pivotal in the continuation of the Mughal dynasty. Akbar the Great, r. 1556–1605. Akbar, often regarded as one of the greatest emperors in Indian history, ascended the Mughal throne at the tender age of 13 after the untimely death of his father, Humayun, in 1556. At the time, the Mughal Empire was still in a state of flux, and Akbar faced considerable challenges in consolidating the vast territories inherited from his father. However, Akbar's early years on the throne were shaped by the guidance of his regent, Bairam Khan, a skilled military commander who helped secure the empire against external threats. Under Bairam Khan's leadership, Akbar's forces successfully defeated the forces of the Hemu, a claimant to the throne, at the Second Battle of Panipat in 1556, securing Akbar's position as the ruler of India. Akbar's reign, which lasted for over 40 years, is often considered the golden age of the Mughal Empire due to his extraordinary achievements in military expansion, governance, and cultural patronage. Militarily, Akbar was a master strategist and expanded the Mughal Empire's territory to its greatest extent. He conquered large parts of northern India, including the Rajputana, present-day Rajasthan, Gujarat, and parts of the Deccan Plateau, and extended Mughal influence into the southern regions of India. Akbar's ability to integrate diverse regional powers into the Mughal fold through strategic marriages, alliances, and diplomacy was a key factor in his success. He was also instrumental in consolidating Mughal control over the rich and populous regions of northern India, which formed the economic backbone of the empire. One of Akbar's most remarkable achievements was his policy of religious tolerance, which helped to create a stable and pluralistic society within the empire. Unlike many rulers of the time, Akbar did not impose harsh policies on non-Muslims. He abolished the jizya tax, a tax on non-Muslims, and promoted a policy of sulh-i-kul, universal peace, encouraging dialogue between different religious communities, including Hindus, Muslims, Sikhs, and Jains. Akbar also engaged in intellectual and theological debates with scholars from various religious traditions at his court. His open-minded approach to religion was also evident in his attempt to create a new syncretic religion, the Din-e-Ilahi, which sought to combine elements of Hinduism, Islam, and other religious beliefs. While the Din-e-Ilahi did not survive, beyond Akbar's death, it represented his commitment to fostering unity in a diverse empire. Akbar's reign was also marked by significant administrative reforms. He reorganized the Mughal Empire's administrative structure, dividing it into provinces called subas, each governed by a subadar, governor. His revenue system, known as the zabt, was a crucial reform that standardized tax collection and allowed the empire to generate significant wealth. Akbar also patronized a flourishing of art and culture, bringing together the best artists, scholars, and poets of the time. Mughal miniature painting reached its height during his reign, and the Akbarnama, a chronicle of his reign written by his court historian Abul Fazl, is one of the most important literary works of the period. Akbar's contributions to governance, culture, and religious tolerance helped solidify the Mughal Empire as a dominant political and cultural force in the Indian subcontinent. His reign is often viewed as a high point in Indian history, characterized by a combination of military, conquests, administrative brilliance, and cultural patronage that left a lasting legacy on India's development. Through his leadership, the Mughal Empire became not just a political entity, but a cultural and intellectual hub of the time, shaping the course of Indian history for centuries. Jahangir, r. 1605–1627. Jahangir, the son of Akbar, ascended the Mughal throne in 1605 after his father's death. His reign, lasting from 1605 to 1627, marked a period of consolidation for the Mughal Empire following the expansive efforts of his father, Akbar. Jahangir, although not as militarily ambitious as his father, was a ruler who sought to maintain the empire's stability and prosperity. His reign is often remembered for its emphasis on culture, art, and diplomacy, rather than military expansion. Jahangir had a deep interest in the arts and was a great patron of Mughal miniature painting, which flourished during his reign. He was particularly fond of portraits, and under his patronage, artists such as Ustad Mansur became famous for their detailed depictions of flora and fauna. Jahangir's rule saw continued stability in the empire, but it was also marked by his internal struggles with his sons, particularly Khusrau Mirza, who rebelled against his father's rule in an attempt to claim the throne. Jahangir's personal life was also tumultuous, especially his relationship with his wife Mumtaz Mahal, who was a great influence on his reign. Despite these familial struggles, Jahangir was able to maintain control over the empire, largely due to the strength of the Mughal administrative system set up by Akbar. In terms of foreign relations, Jahangir's reign was marked by diplomatic success and alliances. He established strong ties with the Persian Safavid dynasty and also maintained cordial relations with the Ottoman Empire and various Central Asian rulers. These diplomatic ties were crucial in ensuring the empire's security from external threats, as well as in facilitating trade and cultural exchange. Jahangir is perhaps most renowned for his commitment to justice, symbolized by his establishment of the Panchayat system, where he personally heard grievances and complaints from his subjects. This system allowed ordinary people to have direct access to the emperor for resolving disputes, demonstrating his belief in fair governance. His reign, though lacking the military conquest of Akbar, was nevertheless a period of cultural flourishing and political consolidation. By the time of his death in 1627, the Mughal Empire remained a powerful and prosperous state, ready for further expansion under his successor, Shah Jahan. Shah Jahan, r. 1628–1658, Shah Jahan, the fifth Mughal emperor, succeeded his father, Jahangir, in 1628, and his reign is often considered the zenith of Mughal architectural achievement and prosperity. His period of rule, from 1628 to 1658, saw the Mughal Empire reach its greatest territorial extent and cultural influence. Shah Jahan's most famous legacy is the Taj Mahal, a monumental testament to his love for his wife Mumtaz Mahal, who died during childbirth in 1631. The Taj Mahal, built in Agra, is one of the most iconic structures in the world and is considered the pinnacle of Mughal architecture. The white marble mausoleum, with its intricate carvings and elegant dome, symbolizes the grandeur and artistry of the Mughal Empire under Shah Jahan's rule. In addition to the Taj Mahal, Shah Jahan was responsible for several other architectural wonders, including the construction of the Red Fort in Delhi and the Jama Masjid, one of the largest mosques in India. His architectural projects were characterized by their grandeur and refinement, blending Persian, Ottoman, and Indian architectural styles into what became known as the Mughal style, which left a lasting influence on South Asian architecture. Shah Jahan's reign also marked a period of economic prosperity and military stability. The Mughal Empire expanded further into the Deccan Plateau, while the empire's capital was moved to Delhi, where the Red Fort became the center of Mughal power. Shah Jahan implemented various reforms to enhance the empire's trade and revenue, strengthening the imperial treasury. The empire thrived through its trade networks, which connected India to Central Asia, Persia, the Ottoman Empire, and Europe. The luxury goods produced in India, such as textiles, spices, and gemstones, were in high demand across the globe. However, Shah Jahan's reign, though prosperous, was also marked by political instability in the later years. His lavish spending on construction projects and the military drained the imperial treasury, leading to financial difficulties. In 1657, when Shah Jahan fell seriously ill, his sons, particularly Dara Shikoh, Aurangzeb, and Murad Bakhsh, began to vie for the throne. This struggle for succession culminated in a brutal war of succession, and Shah Jahan was ultimately imprisoned by his son Aurangzeb in 1658. Shah Jahan spent the last years of his life confined to a private quarters in the Red Fort, where he could only gaze at the Taj Mahal from a distance, a poignant reminder of his lost power and the empire's decline. Despite the challenges in his later years, Shah Jahan's reign is remembered as a period of remarkable cultural and architectural achievement. His legacy continues to define the artistic and architectural grandeur of the Mughal Empire, and the Taj Mahal remains a symbol of Mughal excellence and enduring love. Aurangzeb, R. 1658-1707. Aurangzeb, the sixth Mughal emperor, ascended the throne in 1658 after a brutal war of succession against his brothers, Dara Shikoh, Shuja, and Murad Bakhsh. Known for his ruthlessness in securing his position, Aurangzeb's reign, lasting from 1658 to 1707, marked a significant departure from the more inclusive and tolerant policies of his predecessors, particularly his great-grandfather Akbar. Aurangzeb's rule was characterized by a more orthodox and austere approach to governance, heavily influenced by his devout Islamic beliefs. Aurangzeb's reign saw the expansion of the Mughal Empire to its largest territorial extent, reaching the southernmost tip of India. His military campaigns in the Deccan region, which had long been a source of resistance to Mughal rule, were initially successful in bringing several regional kingdoms under Mughal control. However, the prolonged campaigns in the south, including his wars against the Marathas, Rajputs, and Bijapur, drained the empire's resources and caused significant unrest within the empire. The Maratha resistance, led by Shivaji, and later his successors, proved particularly challenging for Aurangzeb, leading to a series of conflicts that lasted for decades. Aurangzeb's policies toward non-Muslims, particularly Hindus, were a stark contrast to those of Akbar. While Akbar had embraced religious tolerance and inclusivity, Aurangzeb reintroduced the jizya tax on non-Muslims, destroyed several Hindu temples, and attempted to impose stricter Islamic law across the empire. His actions alienated many of the empire's Hindu subjects, leading to widespread dissatisfaction and rebellion. These policies, along with his focus on centralizing power and imposing orthodox Islamic practices, contributed to the eventual decline of the Mughal Empire. Despite his military successes, Aurangzeb's reign was marked by internal strife, including revolts by various regional powers and factions, such as the Sikh community, which grew increasingly hostile towards Mughal rule. The empire's vast size became a burden, as communication and control over distant provinces became increasingly difficult. Aurangzeb's reign also witnessed the emergence of a powerful regional elite, which further undermined central authority. In the later years of his rule, Aurangzeb's health deteriorated, and he faced numerous challenges, including the rise of the Maratha Empire, which, despite his efforts to suppress it, would ultimately contribute to the empire's fragmentation. Aurangzeb's death in 1707 marked the end of an era for the Mughal Empire. While he left an empire larger than ever before, his policies and prolonged military campaigns had sown the seeds of internal divisions and weakened the imperial structure. The Mughal Empire, though still powerful, was no longer the unified and prosperous empire it had once been under Akbar and Shah Jahan. Decline of the Mughal Empire, 1707–1857. The period following the death of Aurangzeb in 1707 marked the beginning of the gradual decline of the Mughal Empire, a process that would span over a century and culminate in the British conquest of India in 1857. While the empire had reached its territorial peak under Aurangzeb, the subsequent rulers were unable to maintain the same level of control, leading to a slow erosion of Mughal power. Aurangzeb's death left a power vacuum that led to a series of weak and ineffective rulers, often referred to as the later Mughals. These rulers, such as Bahadur Shah I, Jahandar Shah, and Rafi-ud-Darajat, were largely figureheads with little real power. The empire became increasingly fragmented, with regional governors or nawabs asserting more autonomy and loyalty to local interests rather than the central authority in Delhi. The loss of centralized control led to the rise of several regional powers, such as the Marathas, Sikhs, Rajputs, and Nizams of Hyderabad, each vying for their own independence and challenging Mughal authority. One of the key factors contributing to the decline was the economic strain caused by constant warfare and military campaigns. The empire had been heavily reliant on military conquest for its wealth, but as the empire expanded, it became more difficult to manage and sustain. The fiscal resources of the empire were drained, and corruption within the administration further undermined the efficiency of the Mughal state. The Mughal military, once the most formidable in the world, became overstretched and unable to defend the empire's vast borders. In addition to internal decay, the Mughal Empire also faced external threats. The Persians under Nadir Shah invaded India in 1739 and plundered Delhi, a humiliating blow to the Mughal Empire. The Afghans, led by Ahmed Shah Durrani, also launched repeated invasions, further weakening the Mughal state. These invasions, coupled with growing internal unrest and the rise of European colonial powers like the British and the French, contributed to the empire's disintegration. The British East India Company, which had been established in India in the early 17th century, gradually gained control over much of the subcontinent through military conquest and diplomatic manipulation. By the mid-18th century, the Mughal emperor was little more than a puppet ruler under British influence. The decline of the Mughal Empire culminated in the Indian Rebellion of 1857, also known as the Sepoy Mutiny, when Indian soldiers in the British East India Company's army revolted against British rule. The rebellion, though unsuccessful, marked the end of the Mughal Empire. The British then formally annexed India, and the last Mughal emperor, Bahadur Shah II, was exiled to Burma, officially ending over 300 years of Mughal rule in India. The decline of the Mughal Empire is often attributed to a combination of factors, including weak leadership, internal divisions, economic decline, and external invasions. However, the legacy of the Mughals remains deeply embedded in Indian history, particularly through their contributions to art, architecture, culture, and the establishment of a centralized administrative system that would influence Indian governance for centuries to come. The end of the Mughal Empire and the British ascendancy, 1707–1857, the Mughal Empire, once a powerful and influential force in India, entered a period of gradual decline following the death of Aurangzeb in 1707. Though the empire's decline was a slow process, it was marked by internal fragmentation, regional uprisings, and increasing pressure from external powers, particularly the British. The period after Aurangzeb's death saw a series of weak Mughal rulers, often referred to as the later Mughals, whose power was largely symbolic, while real control of the empire shifted to regional powers and foreign colonizers. The later Mughal emperors, such as Bahadur Shah I, Jahandar Shah, and Rafi-ud-Darajat, were incapable of maintaining the unity and strength that had characterized the empire under Akbar and Shah Jahan. These emperors were often more focused on maintaining their own court intrigues than on ruling a vast empire, which further contributed to the erosion of central authority. The regional elites, such as the Marathas, Rajputs, Sikhs, and Nizams of Hyderabad, gained increasing autonomy and, in some cases, outright defied the Mughal emperors. This decentralization of power contributed to the fragmentation of the empire. At the same time, the British East India Company, which had been established in India in the early 17th century, grew in power and influence. The British initially engaged in trade, but soon began to exercise increasing control over India's economic and political systems. The decline of the Mughal Empire provided the British with an opportunity to expand their influence especially after the Battle of Plassey in 1757, which marked the beginning of British dominance in India. The Mughal emperors, weakened by internal strife and external threats, became more like puppets under British control. The British East India Company gradually expanded its territorial holdings, using military force and diplomatic strategies to absorb the remaining parts of the Mughal Empire. By the 19th century, the Mughal Empire had lost much of its territorial integrity. The last Mughal emperor, Bahadur Shah II, known as Bahadur Shah Zafar, was largely powerless and relegated to a ceremonial role. The British, who had already gained significant control over India, saw the Mughal emperor as a figurehead, with little actual influence. The culmination of the empire's decline came in 1857, with the Indian Rebellion, also known as the Sepoy Mutiny. The rebellion, which was sparked by widespread discontent with British policies, saw Indian soldiers, sepoys, in the British East India Company's army rise up against British rule. Though the rebellion was ultimately crushed, it marked the end of Mughal rule in India. Bahadur Shah Zafar, the last Mughal emperor, was captured, tried, and exiled to Rangoon, effectively ending over 300 years of Mughal rule in the subcontinent. Following the rebellion, the British formally dissolved the Mughal Empire, and India became a part of the British Raj, a colonial entity that would last until 1947. The fall of the Mughal Empire and the rise of British rule transformed the political, social, and economic landscape of India, leaving a legacy that would shape the subcontinent for centuries. While the Mughal Empire is remembered for its cultural and architectural achievements, its decline marked the beginning of a new chapter in Indian history, one defined by colonial exploitation and struggle for independence.